Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive, and I have an awesome guest here that you are going to love. She is such a sweetheart. But before we get into our show, I just want to say the Quit Sugar Challenge is happening. Woohoo! If you have not registered, join us. It is time to quit sugar. We do it in such a loving, fun, compassionate, easy way where you still get to love your food. So go to quitsugarchallenge.com. It's a 5-day schedule of classes, one class a day, and you are going to learn everything you need to know to just not even want sugar in your diet, let alone decide to quit. So so join us. It's really fun. We have amazing prizes, so much very, very enlightening information that will really help you just know that you're better off without sugar, and it's easier to reach your health goals if you're not hooked on the sweet stuff. So I also give you recipes, tons of recipes for really yummy foods that don't have sugar in it, so you don't feel deprived. But guess what? It's really hard to quit sugar on your own. So join us in the Quit Sugar Challenge. Go to quitsugarchallenge.com, register. It's only $17. My God, what a deal. So looking forward to having you and seeing you in the Quit Sugar Challenge coming up. So the other thing I want to say is that we gather and do fun things in the Secret Sauce group. If you want support to overcome emotional eating, check out the Secret Sauce group. That's where, I'm doing classes and letting you know about really cool things that are coming down the pike, inspirational little stories and videos. Join us in the Secret Sauce group. Go to Secret Sauce for emotional eating on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, go to the Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating and ask to join. We would absolutely love to have you. And if you're not sure if you're an emotional eater, you can take the quiz. We have a free quiz at healyourhunger.com, which will tell you if you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between. If you're not really sure what that's about, take the quiz and find out. You get a personalized score directly into your inbox right away. So find out where you land on the spectrum of emotional eating. If you didn't know, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm on the high end of the spectrum. I'm definitely a food addict. But guess what? Food addicts are emotional eaters, but not all emotional eaters are food addicts. So find out what you are. And lastly, I'm just really excited. Well, I guess not lastly, but finally, I'm excited to share my guest with you here. So this is just a beautiful, beautiful soul. And I'm just really, really excited to have her here. Her name is Katherine, or KB. And she is, I can put my glasses on for this. She's passionate about helping others become truly informed on how they too can live a life of clarity. So a little bit about her. She has a podcast called Just Being Honest, BEIN apostrophe. So Just Being Honest. And it's the JBH podcast. And it's basically an intuitive guide to designing a lifestyle based upon authentic transparency of one's honest capacity. These are some big words, Katherine. It's a wellness workspace cultivating a lifestyle environment based on quality of consciousness. Super cool. And all that to say, this woman is practicing what she preaches, and she is just absolutely beautiful inside and out. And I know you're going to love her. So welcome to the show, Katherine.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, well, big words, because everyone has big potential, right?
You go.
Open up your eyes. We've got this. So thanks for having me on. I really am honored.
Oh, it's great to have you. And you are absolutely just a vision of health. And I know you're a California girl as well. Did you grow up in Santa Barbara?
You know what? I did not. I look like a California girl with the long hair and the tan, but I grew up in the Midwest. I'm from Kansas City.
Okay.
Raised, moved out of there. When I was probably 26, and I never went back.
Yeah, that cold weather, that leaves a lot to be desired. I'm from the Northeast, so I totally get it.
Oh my gosh.
So I always felt like a California girl at heart. So I feel at home here in Southern California as well. So cool. So you are super into wellness and health. Can you talk a little about your own journey of health or to health?
Yeah, most certainly. So, as we all know, we go through a health journey, whether we like to admit it or not. I've been through many in life. I think probably the first one I like to kind of put out there that we all go through subtle traumas, not to use that as a daunting word, but with our family dynamics, right? No matter if we feel like we had the perfect upbringing, that's probably the first trigger or trauma in our life. And when we're a child, sometimes we just stuff it down inside. Like you were saying you were a food addict. Me, what people don't believe, I'm quite svelte now just because I know how to take care of my body, my mind, and my soul. But there was a lot of dysfunction in my family upbringing. I believe I stuffed it down in more ways than one. I'm a very sensitive, highly sensitive person. And when I was a child, like sometimes you use food as a coping mechanism. So that was probably the number one in my life. And then the second one, when you start to grow up and you go through other influences or, dating aspects or what have you, big changes, going to college, that was another way of, my health, my body started to break down in certain ways because of stress. And I didn't know how to deal with it so much at that point. And then third of all, traveled overseas in works to heal myself. I went to Southeast Asia, spent a long time in Thailand and Bali, about 3 months, just basically like rejuvenating my soul, rejuvenating my body, learning what those locals eat. I learned so much about, like charcoal and chlorella, all the things I didn't know about growing up in Kansas, right? So, long story short, I really, really helped kind of just like reinvigorate myself, who I was, take a charge for it. And I think that, Tricia, was kind of the catalyst that helped me on my health journey when I had finally moved out to California. I started out in LA and I got mold poisoning very seriously twice from 2 living situations. I
Wow.
lost years of my life from that. So if any of you are not familiar with mold, it's a neurotoxin. You pretty much go down, your body goes down. I was still recovering from a parasite that I got in Bali. So I was just on this journey of starting back to keeping my levels stress-free, because we all know stress is, as I mentioned before, like this catapult of all inflammation and of all, health, just basically like deep dark holes. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how I went in it. And I pointed out to you before that I grew up in a household. My mom was a functional nutritionist and I was her intern for years and years and years. So I knew a lot of the science, a lot of the political things that go on in the food industry. So I guess all of that coming into one in my curiosity, that is what brought me here to where I am today.
Got it. And I've heard a lot. I just ran into a friend of mine who has actually a nutrition company, and she had mold poisoning or whatever you call it. And her body has been so wrecked by this. And she said she can walk into any room, hotel room, or whatever house, and within 10 minutes, she knows if there's mold or if she can stand it. And we were at an event together and she had a hotel room she couldn't use. And she's like, well, I ended up sleeping in my tent. She brings a tent wherever she goes because she's that sensitive. And I just, was shocked by that and how bad it can be. Can we just talk a little bit about mold and how, like, is it, if there's mold at all in the house, or if it's just in the grout in a shower, like where's the mold and how do you get it?
Yeah, so that's a great question to bring up, because a lot of people they're not visually looking for it. And sometimes you cannot visually see it, right?
Right.
So let's talk about the so mold is a spore, right? It's a spore.
Yeah.
A lot of the times it could also be, I think in some cases, airborne. Say you had, like in my case, the first time I got it, there was a horrible rainstorm and water was trapped on the roof, right? So I'm a renter, I'm a tenant, right? And when it starts, when you look up at the ceiling and you start to see little water spots up there, that's an indication that you have water trapped in your ceiling, in your roof, right?
Right.
And over time, that seeps in and creates that musty smell, perhaps. Maybe a lot of you have carpeting in your house and you start to smell that musty smell. You've got to get the carpet out, right?
Mm.
Right now. You can't even clean that out. So let's talk about the bathroom, right? And when I talk about mold, there are people that are more sensitive than others to
Right.
chemicals, what have you.
Right.
So, yes, black mold in the bathroom is not good. And in a lot of cases, you cannot just clean it with a simple bleach solution. Yes, it would be great to practice to squeegee the walls down every single day. But a lot of people, especially in California, are tenants, they're renters, and they don't know if someone just painted over the walls, painted over the ceiling, you know, regrouted the bathtubs, and that mold is trapped in there. So it's actually in, you know, your floorboards, your ceilings and everything. And you can get this tested because it's not just you know, mold, right? But it's a neurotoxin. It is a complete neurotoxin. It will take your body down. And I'm not trying to freak anyone out, but it will move to different organs of your body.
Wow.
So freakishly weird. It's like a little alien.
Mm.
And there are ways naturally that you can heal yourself from it. There are tests that you can take to see if you are infected with it. But, you know, even if you think you're like Superman from it and all that jazz, you know, like I'm a poor methylator. Which means like I am highly sensitive basically to those things. And so, but it has a lot of counter effects in the long run, you know. I can smell, just like your friend, I can smell mold, I can smell must, you know, you can smell it right then and there.
Yeah.
The second thing is I feel like your intuitive skills go way up. What was I about to say with that? Chemical sensitivities. And I feel like brands out there, and this is part of my platform, brands out there are putting unnecessary, you know, ingredients and things and preservatives that just make it all worse, right? But you can smell if someone's using a mass marketed, you know, for instance, laundry detergent. And if you have had any sort of chemical sensitivity is heightened, and it affects you in so many different ways. It will affect you even if like you're using a lotion, and that's just from a simple mold toxicity. But I think it's very important for people to realize, to recognize, and to know that if your children are crawling on the ground, you know, and there's like a moldy floor, or just being in the house, like setting them up from a childhood upwards, if you start to get migraines, right? If you start to feel stomach pains, if you start to get unusual things like the auric migraines, you know, that's an indication that something is probably lingering, something's probably not going well in your house. So that's elaborated, but
Okay.
there.
Thank you for sharing that. And so that kind of got, you know, having your own health struggles and being super sensitive, that got you on the track of, you know, just wellness and nutrition. And obviously you're already on that from working with your mom, but now you're a coach, a wellness coach, and you help other people with their health. What do people come to you the most for?
I think the two most, like, I would say buddy combinations would be nutrition and mindset. Because they go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't, I've had clients in before that say, hey, just tell me what to eat, right? Just tell me what to eat. Okay, great. That doesn't work for me. Like, I have a platform called Just Being Honest. Like, I am direct. I'm the best friend that you did not have. I'm not mean and harsh, but I will tell it to you straight. So everything starts with the mind. And I'm basically here to align like your mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, social, and environmental influences. And then that is what stems into the nutrition, right? Then you can make healthier choices, right? It's about the mindset of how you wake up in the morning, right? It all is a domino effect.
Yeah. Amen.
Amen.
I'm all for it. Do you have your own feelings about what's the healthiest way for people to eat? Like obviously, greens are good, but is there some kind of diet you subscribe to the most? Is it vegan? Is it paleo? Is it keto?
Yeah, that's a great question to ask because I get asked that all the time. In my popular belief, I grew up in households, my mom was a functional nutritionist. Diets do not work. I don't think diets work. The prescribed diets, right?
Yeah.
This is why. So the first 3 letters are die. Okay. People don't stick to them the way that they're properly should.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about veganism, ketotarian, paleo, whatever, everyone has to first recognize their own body, their own vessel. What's their activity level? What's their mental state? What's their family history? And you need to really honor that. I follow personally a plant-based diet. That's what works for me. I really, really enjoy working with the blood type diets with my clients.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I have found that works time and time again. I don't like to put labels on myself, but I do not eat animal products. Besides a honey. So I don't call myself vegan, but I don't consume animal products or dairy or fish. And that's personally because I like to stay away from, I feel like a lot of those products are filled with mercury right now, a little bit more toxic. And I tried and strive to live a non-toxic lifestyle. So that being said, I stay away from preservatives. I've grown up in a very bland lifestyle, but I make it creative. It's kind of like the Italian way where I'm like a little bit of olive oil, spices can go a long way.
Right.
I just did a blog post about, the transparency of produce sticker codes. And what does that actually mean? An organic piece of, carrot could taste completely different than a conventional one or one from the farmer's market. So I basically go on the integrity of the item that you're eating. You are literally what you eat. The ingredients make all the difference.
Yeah. Amen. And I subscribe to that same philosophy. I don't tell people what to eat because I think it's so important that people tap in and really consider what their body needs,
Exactly.
So important. So the blood type diet, did you, back in the day, I read Dr. Peter D'Adamo's book about Eat Right for Your Type and both of his books. And then I went to see him. I was living in the Northeast and I went to see him and kind of get fine-tuned around that. Is that, and I just recently ran into a doctor who prescribes a blood type diet. Is that what's going around still on the blood type diet? Is it still that book? Is that sort of the Bible for that?
Yeah. You know what? I don't have it by me, but that's the man that I've been kind of preaching to. And my book is ancient. Like the pages are yellowed and stuff. The book is red. It just looks like it was from your grandfather's bookshelf. And I don't take every word literally, but I certainly use it as a way for me to self-experiment on myself. And that's what I think everyone should do. Feel it out, really listen to yourself. Every time that like in 2020, we had our moments. I had certain things that I was stress eating over and with. And then I noticed I don't feel so good. Maybe I should go back to my base. This works with me. This does not. And you have to, at the end of the day, find out what works with you. But I find so far, a lot of those things are pretty accurate.
Yeah. So for those who don't know the blood type diet, was written by Dr. D'Adamo based on his father's body of work. It's basically like if whatever blood type you are, there's a certain diet, and this goes way, way back, to, prehistoric times almost, but not, I mean, after humans. But the way humans sort of found food and sourced food and what regions of the world. And so, long story short, I know for me, I'm a type A, I'm blood type A. And so A's are supposed to be vegetarians or mostly plant-based. And, when I read the book, and O's are meat eaters. So O's and it's not like, what do you mean you're supposed to? Well, this is when your body functions at its optimal levels, is when it's, you're eating according to your, what's said to be, the best diet for your blood type. Now, there are doctors who think this is complete bunk. And so there's a lot of controversy around the blood type diet. But when I read the book, I'm like, it makes sense. Like, it totally made sense to me. And there are things where it said, this is not good for type A's. And I remember oranges was on there, and I've eaten oranges since, but it does it makes an impression on you when you read that book and you start thinking about certain things that you eat. And it's true. I'm not a big meat eater, certainly not a red meat eater. I love a good hamburger now and then, but I noticed that it felt really heavy, like a piece of cement in my body. And it just it doesn't jazz me the way it does some people who need meat for fuel, so a more plant-based diet is going to be better for an A, according to the book, and O, meat, and then A's and ABs, B's and ABs are somewhere in between, with different things. But it was just interesting to me to look at the foods that he lists and to kind of check in, like you said, Katherine, checking in with your body. You always gotta, we have a divine physician and nutrition within us. And so we need to check in with that and see what really works for us. But it's one way to, to really learn about yourself. And, with all books based on diet, and nutrition, you got to gather the information, do the research, but then take into account all the things you need to take into account. And I always tell emotional eaters, filter it through your knowledge of yourself as an emotional eater and what triggers you and what may cause you to binge and be crazy around food. So we can't just blanket accept anything. We have to know ourselves and go from there. But it's certainly very interesting. And once I read that book, I couldn't unread it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't unknow the information. So ever since then, I sort of know that as an A, I'm not going to because some people believe, oh, you have to have protein with every meal or some kind of meat with every meal. And it adjusted my thoughts on that. But thought, well, maybe I don't. Maybe I can get the nutrition I need from plants or a different kind of protein, than a meat source protein. And so I just find it very interesting.
Oh my gosh, I agree. And that protein word, oh gosh, the amount of times people say protein, how do you get your protein? I'm like, you know what? There's 1,001 ways that you can get your protein through plants.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of beans I eat, the amount of, legumes and seeds and nuts and fats and, all these things and certain greens. So yeah, you definitely have to listen to yourself. How hard do you work out? What type of workouts are you doing? It's all hand in hand. We're a big puzzle.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I also don't think if we're not working out a lot that we need as much as we think we do, protein wise. We're
definitely an overfed society.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So, talk to us a little bit about the mindset stuff. What works best for you? What are some of the things you find yourself telling your clients often?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great question. That's probably my favorite thing to talk about because I believe, and I had this conversation the other day, a lot of times people, and I'm using air quotes, people work too much, they're sitting at the computer, they're thinking they have to be busy, but in all reality, you need probably 3 to 4 hours of really strong, focused time on your whatever to-dos. The rest of the time in your life, I believe you should be working on your morning routine, working on your evening routine, and getting your 8 some odd hours of sleep, right? So you have to create a structure. So, and your mindset will just automatically go with that. I'm reading this great book called Atomic Habits about, habit stacking.
Yeah.
Awesome example. But my non-negotiables with your mindset, you have to have your non-negotiables. You have to have this sacred contract with yourself. All right. So my morning routine, my evening routine are non-negotiables in my life.
Amen, sister. I love it.
Yes.
My clients I know are going, I know that word non-negotiable.
Yes. Yes. So with the mindset, it sounds so cliche, but I start my morning off. I wake up and I go for like a light jog with my dog, like super easy. And then I'll do something like a swim or maybe a nice like little weighted workout. And then I have my yoga meditation time, right? Where I drink my tea, perhaps lay on the floor, get my journal out, read a quote of the day, whatever is going to get my mindset in that position. You may have noticed I have not checked my phone yet. I wake up super early, and this is another self-experimentation thing that I've done over years in my life. People think, oh, you're an adult, you should stay up late, right? No, I'm like a grandma. I literally am in my bed reading by 9 p.m. and I wake up 5 a.m. The alarm clock goes off.
Beautiful.
So I wake up super early because I want to make sure that I have enough time in the morning to get my 2.5 hours, 3 hours of just not rushing, no pressure.
Yes.
I think that's so important. A lot of people like, oh my gosh, they slam the alarm off. Like, I'm late. They're running around. The dog's barking, the kids are crying. The kids are mad because they have to go to school, whatever. And then you're like, you forgot about yourself. You've completely forgot about yourself and you're catering to everyone else. You have your non-negotiables, right? And same at bedtime. Why not set an alarm clock to wind down? We set an alarm clock to wake up. Why not set an alarm clock?
I love that.
Winding down. So that I think is the first and foremost thing for setting up a correct mindset. And I know it sounds kind of different than what people would think, like, oh, think positive, I can do this. No, that is the first step. Committing a sacred contract to yourself.
Love it so much. And I have a morning routine as well that I love. And it's so vital. And I don't have an evening routine. I just, over the years, I have gotten, it's taken me a while to really get in bed better. I go to bed at 10, usually 9 in bed by 9 is luscious to me. When I do that, when I get to read before I get to bed by 10, but it doesn't always happen. So 10 for sure. I'm spent by 10. I'm just spent. And I get up like around 5 or 6. So I don't get 8 hours, but always working on that one. So, well, I love that. So talk to me. You work one-on-one with clients. Mm-hmm. So, people come to you who just want to up level their health.
Yeah. Usually I find my demographic, it varies. I've been working with a lot of executive clients, especially perhaps CEOs that are almost striving to like, yeah, I run this big business that maybe is, very, unpassionate, right? And they're like, what really is my purpose? What really is my purpose? I'm on this tech, I'm trying to raise funds, yada, yada, yada. It's so grinding to the ground and to the grave almost that at the end of the day, they're like, what is my worth? Like completely, what is my worth? And so it's not about like totally flipping someone to be like some sacred, like, crystal ball holding, staring at the stars. That's great, but it's about taking it back to the level that is going to work for them, taking it back to the ground roots. Like, where did you come from? Like, what was your upbringing, your inner child? I always go back to inner child. Where did it come from? Why do you have to strive to be this person? Or if you are enjoying that line of work, this is just an example, to find your purpose, because that's what I'm here to do, unveiling your purpose, some might call it dharma, your service in the world, why you were put here in this human vessel. It goes back to like, what keeps coming to your way? What maybe perhaps you keep pushing away? How can you bring that into the workplace, right? So that's an example for executives. The other kind of example would be, and here, let me go back to that. When I do work with them, a lot of the times there's an imbalance, right? Between work and life.
Oh yeah.
Family life and personal life and party life. And, there's something that's just a little bit off that we just kind of need to like tilted this way, right? Like, are you being very, very influenced by your peers, like peer pressure? Adults still go through that, right?
Yeah.
And they almost want this anchor there. So I'm an anchor. But at the end of the day, it's up to the person, as well as I do, it's up to the client to, and this is why we go into mindset, to feel empowered that they actually can do this and be successful. Because at the end of the day, we could say, I should change, I should do this, I should eat like that, I should sleep more, whatever. But it's like, why not? What's holding you back? Like, what truly is holding you back?
Yeah.
And then I do have clients that are, transitioning in life, just like we saw in 2020, they're moving on to a different phase, or, their children are out of the house, and they're just like, I'm ready to just kind of like go back to like who I am really meant to be. So that might be, or maybe they had some deaths in the family and they're stressed and what have you. So maybe they just want to really focus on getting their health back in order and, just like staying committed to themselves in little things, even like a workout routine, like staying committed to that. Maybe they travel a lot. There's all sorts of things. I've dealt with it all, I feel like.
I love that. And I was just checking out your website, and you have you do some different things. So you do lifestyle design sessions, lifestyle design mapping, and coaching of different kinds, like you're talking about, accountability. And you also do personal space curation. Will you talk about that?
Yeah. Personal space curation is basically my modern day feng shui. When I do it personally in someone's house, like I've been sent to people's houses and I go through it, but there are often at times your environment makes who you are. When you go out into the world, that's what you express, is where you just came from, your cave. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a home. It could be an office space, right? Because all these things go into other things like your car, the organization of that. So I believe that a simple, organized home really breeds clarity into someone's life. So it's not just organization, but it's about how things are set up in the home. I go in, I feel energy like that. And I do a lot of smoke cleansing routines and rituals. And say perhaps someone wants to call in love. That's a prime example. All right. So what is your home, your place, your space? What is it expressing to you, right? Is it calling in love to you first, right? Are you feeling comfortable with that? How's the lighting in there, right? Light bulbs are huge, especially with our endocrine system. If you're at home, it's 8:00 at night, it's pitch black outside, and you have bright LED lights on, you better believe you're going to feel a little bit edgy. But in the opposite side, if you have kind of a candlelight, right? You can light candles, or you can have a soft incandescent lighting on a dimmer switch. You're going to feel calmer. I guarantee you. And it also goes back to where are the dead spaces in your home. Everyone knows you walk into a room and you're like, I never hang out in here because there's something that's off, So maybe it's a corner. Maybe you have a ton of freaking electronics over there. Cover up the cords. Like, God forbid, you just hear the zapping, because it all has an effect on you. Another thing is being completely aware of, the Wi-Fi in your home, and like keeping your phones out of your bedroom at night. That's another just kind of like cherry on top of the Sunday.
Yeah. Good detox for sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Will you tell people how they can get a hold of you?
Oh, for sure. Thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah.
So I can be found on my website at, it's www.justbeinghonest.com. Being has no G. And also on Instagram at justbeinghonest.kb. So find me there, DM me, we'll be friends.
Sweet. Thanks so much for bringing your beautiful energy to the show. Really, really lovely to talk with you.
Thank you
And
so
thanks
much.
and thanks everybody for tuning in. So great to be here with you, and I will see you on the next show.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.